Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty cool, how AI is basically learning to read the financial news, a massive fire hose of it, to find hidden profit and risk, and it's doing it in real time.
So you see this question here, right? In this absolute ocean of news and data, how do you find the signal? I mean, modern finance is it's drowning in information. You've got newswires, social media, company reports. It's this constant, super fast stream of messy, unstructured data. So the real challenge for any investor, any analyst is huge. How on earth do you process all of that to find a real edge before it just disappears?
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at just how big this data problem really is. Then, we'll get into the tech that's trying to solve it, how it spots important events, and what that actually means for stock prices. And finally, we'll talk about the real-world challenges, where the rubber meets the road.
All right, section 1, the data deluge. So what is the core problem we're really up against? Well, it all comes down to two things: scale and, well, a total lack of structure.
Think about it. Every single day, you've got hundreds of thousands of articles, tweets, reports, all of it just flooding the market. And this isn't nice, clean data you can just pop into a spreadsheet. No way. It's messy, it's unstructured, it's happening right now, and it's full of noise. It is just way, way too much for any person or even a whole team of people to sift through by hand and find anything that actually makes sense.
So the big question is, how can tech even begin to make sense of all this chaos? Well, let's jump into the main solution here, automated sentiment analysis. Okay, so the main tool for the job is something called sentiment analysis, and it's powered by a field of AI you've probably heard of, natural language processing, or NLP. What it really does is it teaches a machine how to read, but not just read words, but to understand the feeling behind them. The whole goal is to figure out the mood of a piece of text. Is this article positive about a company or negative? Is it bullish or bearish?
And this whole process, you can think of it like creating a virtual analyst. Here's how it works. First, the system just sucks in a huge amount of news from all over the place. Then it uses that NLP magic to pick out keywords and figure out which companies the articles are about. After that, it analyzes the language and spits out a sentiment score. Positive, negative, or just neutral. And the really cool part? Some of the more advanced systems can even guess the likelihood that a specific piece of news is actually going to make the market move.
All right, so the machine can read the mood. That's cool. But can it do more? Can it actually pinpoint specific things that happen? Those big market-moving events? The answer is a big yes. And this is where something called event detection comes in. The algorithms are trained to look past just the general feeling and actually spot important stuff as it's being reported. A great way to think about it is like it's finding the key plot points in the giant ongoing story of the market. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because you can split news into two buckets. On one hand, you've got scheduled news. These are the things we all know are coming. Earnings reports, Fed announcements, that kind of stuff. NLP can track those, no problem. But where it really shines is in flagging the unscheduled news, the stuff that nobody sees coming. We're talking about surprise M&A deals, sudden CEO changes, the things that can really catch the market off guard. Okay, this all sounds incredibly powerful in theory, but so what? Does it actually work? Is there a real, tangible link between these sentiment scores and what stock prices actually do? Well, it turns out, yes. A lot of research looking at financial blogs and news articles shows a pretty clear connection. One study, for instance, found that when a bunch of positive articles come out, it's often followed by a price increase. And that upward trend can actually keep going for several weeks. So yeah, it suggests there's real predictive power hidden in that sentiment.
And the signal can come from some really weird, unexpected places. Check this out. One analysis looked at data from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And what they found was that if a financial company started getting more and more customer complaints, that was actually a pretty good predictor of future stock volatility for that company. It was a signal that a lot of the traditional models were completely missing. But of course, this isn't some magic bullet that prints money. As powerful as these techniques are, there are some pretty big hurdles you have to deal with in the real world. Yeah, the practical side is tough. I mean, think about it. How does an algorithm understand sarcasm on Twitter, or tell the difference between a genuinely new story and one that's just being re-reported by a dozen outlets? And this is a huge one. How do you deal with data bias? The fact that huge companies get way more news coverage than small ones,
Or how do you stop your model from being perfectly tuned to yesterday's market only to fail completely when something new happens? Each one of these is a massive challenge.
So here's the bottom line. These AI tools, they give us an incredible new way to look at the market, for sure. But their success is absolutely not a given. It all comes down to being able to skillfully, and I mean really skillfully, separate that tiny sliver of true signal from all the overwhelming noise out there.
And that leaves us with one last, kind of provocative thought to chew on. As these automated systems get better and better, and more people start using them, the competitive edge is gonna shift. Maybe the real alpha, the real edge in the future won't come from just blindly trusting the machines, but from having the wisdom to know exactly when and how to question them. Hey, if you liked what you learned here, do us a favor and share this explainer with your network. And of course, subscribe for more breakdowns of the big ideas shaping our world. Thanks for tuning in.